Hey, this is Donnie Smith with Car Addict Garage, and I am way behind on answering some of your questions here on YouTube. Apologize for that. Just got kind of busy, but I'm here to answer some of them tonight. So I've got quite a few questions I'm going to try to answer. And I also apologize. I didn't give you any type of notice that I was going to do this live, just kind of a last minute thing. I was thinking, man, I need to get caught up and let them, provide some answers for you. So anyway, I do apologize about that. Let's go ahead and get started because, like I said, I do have quite a few. And one of the first questions is can I apply lacquer over enamel? And the answer is no, because the lacquer thinner that reduces lacquer, it's a very hot thinner. A lot of times it will react with what's underneath it and may cause it to wrinkle or have some other problems. So lacquer cannot be applied over enamel, shouldn't be, cause some problems. Now, can you apply enamel over lacquer? And that answer is yes. You can apply most products on top of lacquer because, years ago, that's all we had was lacquer primer. And we didn't have the 2K, the good primers we have these days. I mean, I really do like the primers that we have today. But back when we only had lacquer, we'd put a acrylic enamel on top of that lacquer primer. We would put a base coat on top of that. When they came out with the base coat clear coat, we'd put the base coat on top of that lacquer primer, and it worked well. The only thing with lacquer primer that I didn't like, is a lot of that does not stay on the vehicle. A lot of that shrinks off. It reduces 100 to 150 to 200%. So most of what you're putting on there is going to evaporate off. So you probably had to apply prime and block 2 or 3 times. Today with these primers, if you did your body work well and you didn't have any problems with it, most time you can just prime and block 1 time and it's ready for paint. So anyway, a lot of advances in the primers, and I really do like the 2K primers that they have today. So to answer that question though, no, you cannot put lacquer on top of enamel. Now, if it's cured, it's fully cured, it's something old, you're not going to have no problems. This is basically talking about something that's a little bit fresh. PPG says it takes 90 days for their paint to fully cure, but if it's past that 90 days, I don't see why you'd have a problem putting lacquer on top of enamel. But if you're coming back and doing a redo or doing something that putting lacquer on right after the enamel or several days after that, you're probably going to have problems. So let's get to some other questions. Can I use epoxy primer? This is what Valdo Vic says. Can I use epoxy primer without catalyst? I bought some primer together with catalyst, but 1 day later, I found out my catalyst is harder than wood. Maybe because the container was plastic, the salesman transferred it to. And unfortunately, epoxy is a 2K product, 2 component. It does take the primer and it takes the catalyst, and they have to mix together for it to combine together for it to make the chemical change. So again, I have a lot of no's tonight, but no, you cannot use that epoxy primer without the catalyst. I know some of your older paints like acrylic enamel, the paint, you could leave the hardener out and it'd still dry. Some of your industrial paints are like that, but no, when it comes to epoxy and these 2K products, you have to have the catalyst in there, or it won't ever harden up properly. So I might go get you some more hardener before you try to spray that. Let's see, all Enuria, probably said that wrong. It says, please tell me what size is a DA, usually the size for sanding filler and primer. And again, this is going to be, there's a controversy on this. This comes from mixed. I'm going to give you my opinion. And I know there are a lot of guys out there that do sand their body filler and primer with a DA, but I am, I teach at a school and I teach students, and I've seen once you learn how to use a DA really proper and you're really good with it, you can get by with it. But I would recommend on your filler that you block that out by hand. There are some tools, if you want to sand it a little bit faster, some pneumatic tools, like there's an air file that will speed it up. There's an 8-inch sander. a mud hog, that can be used on big flat areas, but I would not recommend using a DA. I mean, the DA we use is a 6-inch DA. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend using that if you're new to this. It can cause you a lot of problems. And what usually happens, what I see, if you start sanding your primer or your filler with the DA, it'll smooth it, but that's really not the objective. It's get it nice and level. And it'll kind of start following any lumps that you have in the body filler. And when you fill of it, and it's kind of hard to fill it first until you get the hang of it, but you can fill those lumps, and after it's painted, you can see waves. So I don't recommend using a DA. Some people have a really hard time filling the filler because it's in different layers and you're filling different textures. What I show the students to do, and some of them like it, is get you a rag and put in your hand or put on the surface that you're blocking out and rub it with that rag. Sometimes that takes the filling of the different textures off, and sometimes you can fill the waves and the highs and lows a little easier. So try that to see if that helps out. Let's see. Okay, Jordan Lewis says, thank you for the good video. Well, thanks for watching, Jordan. It says, how long will it take until the paint won't dent if you press it with your fingernail? Also, if the paint hardener ratio is off, say 20%, will it affect the paint's ability to properly cure? Okay, to answer the first question, like I talked about this a minute ago, the next day it is going to be a little bit soft. You stick your fingernail in it, it's probably going to leave an indentation there. PPG recommends, or they state that it takes 90 days for it to fully cure. Now, drying and curing are two different things. It's dry. All the solvents have evaporated, the next day. It's dry. But curing is where your products like your catalyst and your paint, in your clear coat, or your clear coat and your catalyst, they're making a chemical change. Once that fully makes that full change, that's when it's properly cured. So anytime in that first 90 days, I'd say especially the first 30 days, I'd be careful. It's going to scratch easier. If you're careful with it, I mean, we sand and polish, usually the next day. That's when it's usually the easiest because it is a little softer and you can cut and polish it a little bit easier. But that first 30 days, I would be careful for scratching it. I definitely, wouldn't do the fingernail test unless it's on an adjacent part that's not, or like a test panel or something like that. So yeah, it does take a while for that. Usually within a week, it should be somewhat hard, but like I said, I just go by PPG's recommendations and they say 90 days. Now, if the hardener's off 20%, the ratio, I'm sure it's going to affect it. I'm sure it's not going to get as hard as fast. It's that on your solvents, it is recommended to, put it, exactly if it's 4-to-1, you need to mix it 4-to-1. If you run out or something like that, I don't know what happened here, but if you run out, you might want to go get some more before you finish the spraying. I would definitely want that ratio to be right, and that could possibly affect the curing time. Will it properly cure or not? Will it fully cure? I don't know. I would have to get with PPG and ask them that question and see what to do. Now, I remember years ago, I did paint a car. It was a Camaro, and it was a complete paint job. Did some stripes on it, everything, and I just put that clear coat on back to back, and I put everything on too fast. And, I'm pretty sure it was mixed right, but I think I just put it on so fast and didn't allow the proper flash and trapped a bunch of solvents in there. And that clear coat, and this was Acme, it's a brand, it's from Sherwin-Williams. It never did fully harden. I mean, it would, it never did fully harden. I mean, you could stick your finger in it months later. So, I had Acme come look at it, and they just said, yeah, you put it on too wet and cause some problems. So, if you do that, it's a problem. You're gonna have to take all that off, strip it off, and start over again. So be sure and wait your flash times, especially if it's cold, your shop's cold, and just think whatever temperature it is in the shop, that may not be the temperature of your metal. So, it's good to have one of those thermostats you can point at it and squeeze and see what temperature that metal is. Because if it says 10 minutes, that's probably talking about 68 degrees. You're going to have to really extend that flash time, or else you could run into some problems like that solvent popping, and just a lot of different problems you can run into. So okay, hey Donnie, ordered my paint from eBay. I got your Kim product. It's budget friendly as this gun. So I've got two guns to choose from for sure, shooting base and clear, which are a Harbor Freight gun, Black Widow gun, and my other choice is a 3M gun. Who wins the spot in your hands, Donnie? Thanks for the info. Okay, just a good old boy. I am not familiar with the Harbor. I've used Harbor Freight tools, but I'm not familiar with any of their spray guns. So I don't know about that, but I will tell you the 3M, and he's talking about this 3M AccuSpray gun, the composite gun. It actually sprays. I like that gun, and I would probably rather use that, with a 1.3 tip. They got the color coded tips that you can put on it, depending on what gun you're using or what you're applying. Like a 1.3 is for base coat, clear coat, 1.6 to 1.8, that's for your primer surfacers and so on. But I would prefer to use a 3M gun, as long as you got a good clean tip on there. And the thing about it, they're about $5 each, I think. And if it's not spraying good, replace that in, and it's like you got a new gun again. So in my opinion, without even trying the Harbor Freight gun, I would vote for the 3M gun. And if someone out there is watching this either now live or later you're watching this video and you have a different opinion, or you have tried the Black Widow gun at Harbor Freight, let us know down in the comments. I don't know everything, a lot of products, a lot of tools I haven't tried, but I'm just giving my vote to the 3M because we use that all the time. I have used that for just about everything at one point or another. Primer surfacer, I've used it for base, and I think it sprays really well. So that's just my opinion. Again, if you got a different opinion, leave us a comment down below. Looking through the comments. Okay, I feel like I'm not being real helpful tonight because I don't know either the answer's no, or this one I don't really know the answer, and hoping maybe one of you can help us out. It says, this is from Vita2246, says, help. My daughter just purchased a brand new SUV. It was raining that day, and she pulled it into the garage and put a few sheets of aluminum foil over her car to detour the cats from jumping on it. She removed the next day and left a hazy type spot wherever the foil was. As you can imagine, she is sick about it. Have any suggestions? Thank you. I am not familiar with that. I have, I don't know that I don't know if aluminum foil somehow interacts with that paint. I've never put it on there. I do use aluminum foil for masking, like wiring harnesses and fuel lines if you're doing work on the frame or anything like that. Some things it works really good for masking up, but I have never put aluminum foil on top of the paint, so not sure why it caused the hazy spot. The first thing I would say is maybe just try to wax it a little bit, see if that takes it off. Wash it first and then wax it. And if that doesn't, I would wash it, and then I'd just do a spot just to see if it works or not. If it doesn't, I wouldn't wax the whole vehicle. But the next step I would do is I'd wash it, and then I'd get a clay bar. A clay bar basically takes off all contaminants, and it'll take off all your waxes too, though. So when you're done using the clay bar, you'll have to come back with some wax and re-wax it. So hopefully one of those will help, but why it caused the hazy spots, I don't know. I know if the vehicle's a little bit wet, and I've had this happen to me, and when you put plastic over it to cover the rest of the vehicle in the booth, and then you bake it and you heat it, that kind of leaves a film on there, if it's a little wet. So, be sure your car is dry before putting it in a booth. and putting plastic over it. I don't know how it causes that or why, but it does kind of put a film, probably kind of like what you're talking about, but it'll come off. It's not too hard to get off of there. You can wash it up. And like I said, if you do have any problems, just clay bar it and then wax it again. That should fix the problem. Okay, this is on a tab repair. When we're doing tab repair, it says, what kind of glue did you use? And I went to a school, Dean King, and it's whatever hot glue that they used. That they gave us a bunch of it whenever we went there. But I've heard a lot of the PDR guys, they say they just get some hot glue from Walmart, and says it works fine. So I don't think it's really any specific glue, especially if the guys that do this every day, the PDR, dent repair with the tabs, glue tabs. If they say don't think that's too big of an issue, I wouldn't worry about, exactly. They do have a whole bunch of them. You go like on Amazon or something, they got all these different colors and, different applications. But, yeah, a lot of those guys say they get it from Walmart. So, so we had a comment and a reply to that. They are the glue sticks that got in the hot glue gun that come with the kit. Yeah, and you're correct, David Hovick. It is it's the kit we got from Dean King. It's a school, a 1 or 2 week. I did the 1 week class to kind of learn how to do the PR, use the rods and these glue tabs. So anyway, it wouldn't be, you could try just that from Walmart. The important thing is that you clean it good with alcohol, the spot that you're going to put the glue tab. And when you go to peel the tab off, you need to put some alcohol on it, and that helps remove the glue. And it also needs to be, there's like a 70% alcohol. I'm talking about rubbing alcohol, and a 91%. The 70, and we've tried it because that's what I accidentally got one time. It does not work near as well getting the glue off. It needs to be that 91% alcohol, for removing that glue. Let's see, talking about sanding body filler. Yeah, we're not supposed to be, body filler is not supposed to be applied over self etch. That's what the primers, the video is about. But it says, what about epoxy panel bond? Can I put filler over that? And I don't know if there's a technical data sheet on that, but my answer is yes. I've done it, have had no problems with it. I've put body filler over, like a area that I put panel bond, and some of it oozed out, and I've sanded that down and then put filler on top of that, and it worked great. So I wouldn't hesitate doing that. I've done it and never had a problem with it. Okay, this is just a little quiz that I had on there, a little trivia fun thing. And it's talking about the Mustang. And the Mustang was actually named after an airplane. That's what the Mustang was. And it says, why would you put the horse as a logo and not the plane then? And I've heard rumors. I heard that they started out as a plane, and right before they introduced the Mustang, that they decided to go with the horse instead. So, but no, the Mustang was originally, the name was originally, um, designed to go, or not designed, but the plane is what it was named after. So, we're mixing up some paint, and Seed Reza says, what computer software is this? And we use PPG paint, and back in this video we used all solvents, so it's Deltron. And we PPG, or whatever paint company you use, they have their own computer system. So if you're using a Sherwin-Williams, or PPG, or whatever system you're using, it's their computer system. They'll bring you the computer whenever they put in your mixing system. So the computer, the scale, and the mixing bank usually all go together. So that is a PPG, to answer the question. Um, Pipsy, Pipese, asks, what is guide coat? And that's a good question. And, a lot of people don't use it because they, think they can see the highs and lows, but really anything to help make your job easier, is I recommend using it. I'll use guide coat, and what it is, it's just usually black, comes in powder, or you can get it in a spray, and you just spray it over what you're working on. And as you sand it, if there's any lows there, like a deep scratch or a low area, whenever you're blocking it, that guide coat stays on that scratch or low. And whenever you look at it, you blow it off and look at it, and like if there's a scratch, you'll see that it has a black inside of it. Or if there's a low, where that block couldn't go down and sand over, and in that low, the guide coat will stay there. So basically, it's just a product, either powder or in a spray can. You apply to the surface, and it helps you identify highs and lows. And I recommend using it. If you're Aaron Anderson says your best friend if you want perfect work, and that's true. I mean, if you don't want to accidentally miss something, that's what you don't want to do. You feel of it, you think it feels fine, and you paint it, and then notice there's a little ripple there or something, or a scratch or something that you miss. So I do recommend using guide coat, and I, teach the students to use it, and I use it in between grits on body filler and primer, just to make sure that, once you sand, and also keep you from sanding too much. How do you know how much to sand? If you use guide coat, once the guide coat's gone, you're good. You don't have to sand anymore. You've sanded all those scratches out. Without guide coat, you're just guessing at it. So, I mean, you get to where you kind of can look for different things, but I do recommend using guide coat. Okay, I'm spraying some matte black on this video, and Chris Carmen says, what is the perfect spray gun type and tip size for paint such as this? And most of your base coats, single stages, a 1.3 or 1.4, same with clear coat. And this is with most guns. We use the Velvis, the Technica gun, the Pro Light. We use a Iwata, Supernova. We use some different guns. We use the 3M gun. We've had SATA before. We don't really use that one a whole lot anymore. But 1.3, 1.4, most of those guns seem to do a really good job for base coat and clear coat. You get up into your bigger sizes, and that's going to be like your primer surfaces or your thicker products that has a thicker viscosity than your base coat does. So the type of gun, we use HVLP. It's a gravity feed gun. We use all that just to be compliant. Or we do have a reduced pressure, which is also compliant and may have a little bit more overspray than HVLP, but it's still compliant. So an HVLP or RP, which is reduced pressure, one of those two guns with a 1.3 or 1.4. What does DA stand for? The Life of Tony asked this, and that's a good question, because it's something that I take for granted. I say things a lot of times. I've noticed this in class, even especially when I first started teaching. I would say things, and they's like, well, what does that mean? Well, DA stands for dual action. That just means it's not going just like a grinder only in one direction. So DA stands for dual action, and it's used for feather edging. It's used like I said earlier, I don't like using it for body filler. I don't like using it for blocking primer, but a lot of other applications, final sanding, getting it ready for paint. I'll use one of those interface pads and use it for that as well. So that DA will be your friend in this business. Use it all the time. Okay, well, I'm behind more than that, but that's probably about all I answered tonight. Just wanted to try to get caught up some on that, and hopefully I helped answer these. I know a lot of the answers tonight was you was asking a question and the answer is no, but I want to be truthful with you. I don't want to lead you along or say something that's incorrect. and I try to give most of my answers backed with technical data sheets. And can some of these things happen? Probably so, and probably someone's done it. But according to the technical data sheets and the products I use, that's how I get my answers. So hopefully that helps answer them. There was one about the aluminum foil. I've had something similar to that with plastic, but I didn't really, if you can help out with that question, I'd appreciate it. And, you can help answer his question. So I'm going to flip back over to the main screen here and see if I had any questions. Okay, Vet Junkie Z06 says, in the heat, panel bond shrinks in the sun. So if that's the case, that could be a problem if you're putting filler over it then. Where I have mostly used that is like putting on a quarter panel. I was doing it on a Mustang, and where the quarter panel goes on and all the seams, like on the door jambs and stuff, I wanted that to be seamless. And so the panel bond oozed out. I sanded that down, put body filler on that, and it worked good for that. But, if it shrinks, maybe you want to put it out in the sun and make sure it has shrunk before you try to finish it out. But he also says, you say you shoot PPG. How good is your knowledge of the product? We use Enviro-based now. That's what we've been using for some years. Before that, it was Deltron. Used that for years. It's what I know most. I know it more than any other paint. I've used that in the shop line, Omni. All the second lower lines of PPG. So I mean, it's a good product. I'm not saying it's the only product to use. It's just what I'm most familiar with. I've heard a lot of good things about a lot of other ones. Like I've said, I've used Acme, which is Sherwin-Williams, just a relabel Sherwin-Williams. I've used a DuPont, especially back in the acrylic enamel and acrylic lacquer days. I think the lacquer was Lucite and the acrylic enamel was Centauri. Yeah, I had to pull that way back from my memory. So anyway, I'm familiar with them. Let's see, Supply Man 1240. Let's see, would using VHT Quick Coat enamel paint SPS 505 be okay for painting a vehicle and then clear? Yeah, Quick Coat enamel paint. I don't know. You just have to read the technical data sheet on that and to see if it's compatible with each other. I'm not sure on that one. If anybody else has the answer to that, be sure to let us know. Yeah, I'm not real familiar with that VHT quick coated enamel. I've seen something about the 500. Whenever I was using solvents, I love the Deltron 500 DBC 500. What that is, that's just an intercoat clear. It really works well for blending. If you're blending a panel, you can cut that back, and it's kind of like putting half clear, half paint. Makes a more translucent coating for blending. You can also use it like if you're doing stripes and artwork. Let's say you sprayed some silver metallic out, and you can spray it over that silver metallic, put a couple coats on, then you can come back with your other colors or whatever. And then if you unmask it, notice there's a little bit of overspray, which you get sometimes. You can lightly sand that off, and you're actually sanding on top of that 500 and not the metallic. Because if you sand metallic, it's going to disturb the metallic, and you're going to be able to see that spot that you sanded. So I missed that a lot because I used it a lot. Enviro base, I don't know if they really have anything like that, but how do you make 500? I don't know. DBC 500 without spending $400 a gallon. Like I say, I haven't bought it in a while because we're not using any solvents. And I didn't realize it was that expensive. It seems like quite a bit. Seems like some of your catalyzed clears are about that much. So, but yeah, how do you make it? I don't know. If you got a mixing bank, you could probably put some of your clears and binders in there and make it, whether it be cheaper or not. I'm not sure, because all those toners are pretty expensive too. See, Mike says, "Hey Donnie, it's Mike from Michigan. Hope all is well. So on Shopline, what can be used as a sealer 2K primer or epoxy primer?" You can use epoxy primer. Back when I used solvents, I used epoxy primer for a lot of applications, like as a sealer. If you look on that can, it'll tell you, you can mix it like I think epoxy mixes 2 to 1, 2 parts epoxy to 1 part catalyst. But if you're going to use it as a sealer, you can add up to, a certain percentage of reducer. So if you're going to be spraying it as a sealer, you do want to put that reducer on so it sprays and lays out a little bit better, because you're not going to be sanding that. You're going to spray the epoxy on there, and that's good for covering metal, paint, whatever you have, whatever your substrate is, and then allow it to dry for about 30 minutes, and you come back and put your base coat straight on top of that. And they've got some different color epoxy, so depending on what color that you're spraying, light color or dark color, you can use that certain epoxy for whatever you're spraying, whatever color you're spraying. So yeah, that's I have used a lot of epoxy as a sealer. Supply Man says, I am just painting a truck, solid color, dark blue. And I have no problem with that. I know a lot of people think everything has to be solid. Oh, I thought you said single stage, but yeah, single stage. I'll paint solid colors. I have no problem with that. A lot of times some of your metallics, it's kind of hard to sand and buff those if it's a single stage, because you might sand some of the top of your metallic, the way it was laying on top. If you sand it, like if you have a run or some type of imperfection, heavy orange peel, dirt, it's kind of hard to sand and buff. But solid colors, you don't really have that problem. Let's see, Vet Junkie Z06BB says, I'm doing a Marbleizer job, and they say use an intercoat clear before 2 to 1. And yeah, I have seen that too. I have done it and not used it. And then rereading their technical data sheet, they do say to use that intercoat clear. And this is House of Color, I believe, because they're the ones that call their intercoat clear, that mid clear that I was talking about, like 500. They're the ones that use that intercoat clear. And they do recommend that you do put that intercoat clear down. So, I didn't catch that one of the times I was doing it, but I would follow the technical data sheet. And I know it does say that on House of Color's technical data sheet. So see, Mike says thanks. So it's calls for acetone to reduce. Okay, yeah, just get some acetone. Does it say what percentage? Is it like up to 20 maybe? I don't know. Yeah, just read on the can or the technical data sheet, and it will tell you how much. Like it'll say up to, and it might give like 10 to 20% or 10 to 25% or whatever. And so the way that works, go ahead and mix your product, and then you'll need to see the total amount you have. If you got a scale, let's say you have 100 ounces, or that'd be a lot, but parts, 100 parts. You'd multiply that by whatever it says, 20%. And that's after it's already mixed. And then you'd put your acetone in there to get the correct mixture. See, what state are you in? Guessing you're using water-based now. Yes, we are using water-based. We've been using it for quite some time. Then Viral Base is the PPG's line. They've got, paint companies are so weird. They've got Viral Base, but then they also have Aqua Base, which is the exact same product, different labels. So certain jobbers can sell Aqua Base, and certain jobbers can sell the other one. So it's either or. One jobber can't sell both. I don't know if it's territorial rights or what it is, But yeah, we've been using Waterborne. It has its issues. It's a little more sensitive. If I was a DIY doing custom paint or overalls, I still like solvent much better. It's a little more sensitive. If you didn't get it, perfectly clean, or if you had any scratches whatsoever, it's going to show up a lot more with the Waterborne. But the good thing about the Waterborne is if you're doing collision work where you're not doing completes and you're doing, trying to match paint and doing like bumper covers, a lot of times you even do a butt match, or you're doing a blend, man, they match, the color matches so much better. But they do have their issues. There's a downfall to it as well. You got to spend a little bit more time on the prep work. And I'm in Kansas, so I probably can't tell because I'm not from Kansas, but I live here now. Been, at this school about 13 years. But I come from Texas, and that's kind of where I get the accent from. So, let's see. On the tech sheet, didn't know if I could use reducer. If it says acetone on that, I'd probably use that. I think I mean, this thing is no book answer. I have used reducer to reduce it, and I didn't have no problems. Urethane reducer, but if it says acetone, I'd probably try to stick to what it said. But can you use reducer and maybe get by with it sometimes? I have, but then again, it could kick you in the butt sometimes too, though. So yeah, try to follow those technical data sheets as close as you can. No, it didn't lift on me. You talking about using the reducer? No, I had no problems. It worked fine. I put I did reduce it with a urethane reducer that I like the 885 that I use for my paint, and I had no problems. It didn't lift. But again, that was just one of them, trying to get it done. Didn't have no acetone, so I used some reducer, and I lucked out. I didn't have no problems with it. But House of Color sells an adhesion promoter to put on top of Marbleizer, so it might just be that route. Put on top of Marbleizer, so it might just be that route. Okay, I don't remember the technical data sheet talking about the adhesion promoter for the Marbleizer, but yeah, if it says it on there, let me make sure that I got all that. If it says that on there, whatever that technical data sheet says, it's been a while since I've read it, but if they recommend putting an adhesion promoter on top of that, I would do that. The one that I did, well, I've done several of them, but one of them I did not put the intercoat clear or the adhesion promoter, and I didn't have any problems with it. In fact, I didn't even use House of Color clear. All that I used of House of Color was the Marbleizer. I sprayed it with some base, PPG base I had, and then I put the Marbleizer on it and did the plastic and gave it that effect, and then I put PPG clear on top of it. So, but that's not a good, you probably want to stick with one paint system. I have mixed them up, but it's not recommended. And if you have a problem, you only got yourself to blame. So yeah, I'd probably try to, and the House of Color, their clears are not really no more expensive than the rest of them. And I can't remember which one, the show clear, whatever it is. I mean, it really lays out and levels really nice. I mean, it looks nice when after it's sprayed. Now, a lot of times with House and Color, they may recommend on your last coat, putting a little extra reducer to do a flow coat, and that'll just help it flow out just a little bit better. So Mike says, okay, Donnie, thanks. Have a great week. See you next week. All right. Well, thanks for joining me here. Like I said, I do apologize for being behind and not giving you notice that I was even going to do this live video. I know in the past I've, put it up and posted it, hours before I came live, and I think it was like two minutes today. So anyway, sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah, I do custom paint. I stopped using 2021 and been using Shopline 2065. I think honestly it's the same clear with just relabeled. And I hate to say it, but I think a lot of products are like that. Who knows if it's the same clear. We use a lot of 2021 because we're in no hurry. There at Butler, where I teach at, we're not a production shop, and I know it's not the fastest drying clear, but we use a lot of that. And another clear we use, which is through a shop line, and Keystone makes a version of it. Keystone Automotive is their European clear. We really like that. It works. It's a 2-to-1, and it works real well too. So yeah, I think sometimes people get all caught up about what brand it is, and I agree. I've learned through the years so much of what you use is relabeled. People think, well, this works better than that, and actually it's the same product. And that's I've learned that. Not everything is, but there's a lot of products that's relabeled, just like Sherwin-Williams, Acme. I think there's a Martin Senior. If you get it at Napa, exact same stuff, different label. So. Old Donnie boy. By the way, look good, lose some weight. Yeah, I did lose a little bit. Actually, well, I mean, not really time to tell. Yeah, about 2 weeks. I've been working out for about 2 weeks now. I got a little bit sick. Decided it's time for me to start working out and get healthy and eating better. So maybe the 2 weeks helped. I don't know. So anyway, a lot of effort doing all that. So thanks, thanks for the comment. So anyway, I am going to wrap up this video. And if you have any questions, be sure and leave a comment below. This video will still be available later, and the regular comments down below will still be available. And so if you have any questions, leave the comments. If you have any answers, some of the questions that I had, or you can better explain them, or some of the questions I didn't have an answer to, be sure and help out and leave us a comment below. I'll be the first to admit I don't know everything. I've been doing this a long time, but I learn every day. And, if you quit learning, you just limit yourself on how much you'll ever know, because I don't care who you are. I mean, you're going to learn, and there's a lot to learn out there, and nobody knows everything, especially in this business. It's just changing so fast. The paints are changing fast. The technology in cars are changing fast. Just like just look at that Tesla truck. That's kind of a shock to see that thing come out. But what did y'all think about that? Did you like the truck? Or I don't know. It runs good. I mean, it's fast. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.